Hello, this is Ilona, and I found something interesting again. Here is this quite recent, actually, research about the bones from these caves in southwestern Germany about 40,000 years ago. And the claim, well, I did read it, it doesn't really claim it. That these marks are some kind of writing, might be, or a predecessor of writing, which. Yeah. I want to share what I see when I look at them. Based on my personal life experience, basically, this is how everyone does it. Even these people who are studying these things, they still have their own biases. We all have. And sometimes it is good when someone, like me, for example, in this case, from outside that area, can are able to look more out of the box. I think, yes, something like that. So the first thing I thought when I looked at these marks was this for me doesn't look like writing, but yes, that's just first impression. Um, I didn't really study these marks very much in detail. Uh, for me, it looks like counting something. So this is not writing. This is counting. I, okay, let me explain why I think it is. So if we think about the lives of the people who made these objects, counting was absolutely essential for survival, and not counting objects necessarily, but counting time. Because the time is abstract, you cannot hold it in your hand, and you cannot keep days in your head. Uh, because I noticed when I don't have to go to work, to school, to something like that for a longer time. I just don't know even what day it is, what date it is, and it is normal for people to sometimes be lost in time. And for people who lived in this more like northern parts, you had to keep track on seasons. It was really very important. And as I already said in that video about stars, about the Big Dipper, how it rotates around this northern star, you can see time in night when the night just started, when it is somewhere in the middle or at the end. But also you could see the seasons, depending on where the Big Dipper is in the sky at certain time. Also, yes, and why these seasons, knowing seasons, are important for many various reasons, and all are about survival. You have to know when to hunt specific animal. When we imagine hunter gatherers, usually how it is that they were running around the forest all the time hunting animals. No, I don't think this is what happened actually in reality, because I personally lived in a farm and I know what it means to be prepared for winter, for example. And also, I know how much meat actually family can eat. If you catch a big animal, and here we are talking even about mammoths, you will not eat it even in a week. So you have to know when to catch it, and the best time is before winter, when it is quite cold already, which means better preservation of meat, and the animal is already fattened up. So you can have more out of it compared to other times in year. And there is no need to hunt or catch animals and waste your resources on something what you will not be able to even eat. So yes, they were not running around catching animals all the time for no reason. Another seasonal thing is you have to know when and what kind of berries, mushrooms, roots you can collect. Also, it connects to my other video, to the birch tree. For example, birch sap. You can collect it at one specific time in the year, which is roughly 1 month, but it can be less. So it also obviously depends, but you have to know when you do it. And also collecting wood for colder months, because yes, they still had to warm themselves. Maybe they could collect some dead trees, which were fine. But if you were cutting something down, you cannot to burn it literally after cutting, and you have to know when you are cutting it. In spring, no, definitely no. It will be wet, and it will take forever to dry. If even it probably will not even dry at all. This is one thing why it is important sometimes to keep track of, no, sometimes always actually to keep track on time. Migrational things, another thing. Some fish uh, also in spring, okay, this is spring. I can eat, for example, eggs. I can find eggs in spring. You have to know when exactly to look for what kind of eggs. But another thing, which is also, I don't really understand why this is not really talked, because maybe people who are working on these things are mostly men, and they just don't have this experience in their life. But um, we don't know who did these marks on these things. We cannot assume that it was one gender who did it. What is important for women to count? Mm, First of all, obviously, your period cycle is another very important thing. And specifically pregnancy, you need to know when you are going to give birth and prepare for that too. So this is also another thing which is also actually it is very important, yes, especially back then. And even now we do that. We still count how many weeks how many weeks, how many months, when. And also when the child is born, you have to keep track on their age, to know at what age to give certain foods, for example, for a baby. So these are all things which needs to be counted. So why we are dismissing this, I don't know. A lunar calendar again. What I saw also in that article, paper, whatever, something like they kind of are dismissing it as a lunar calendar, or maybe because it is always overused or something. Yes, I cannot prove it was a lunar calendar, but also they cannot prove it wasn't. And why do we think that if we say everything is lunar calendar, because it's so easy to apply lunar calendar thing to everything, but that is something very basic. It is like why we assume that all food is eaten or food is being eaten, because yes, this is the main purpose of food. You eat food. Or why we go to sleep? Or do we have to? Or no, we don't go to sleep always because we are tired. No, there are some very basic, simple things which are just exist, and people looked at skies for who knows since when. And of course they that was the thing which was the best. It was their calendar. You couldn't really where else you could see what kind of point of reference you could have if not sky. And it was used not just for time but also for directions. And the lunar calendar, it was something was sure they used it. It would be weird to assume that they didn't. That's like the primary basic thing. I mean, I don't know. Okay. And next, yes, about these topics. Looked at these marks and everything, and there are these X and Y's even. But about Y's, why do they assume that these are really Y's? I couldn't see them there actually. I just saw X's and that's it. Because when you, for example, write on the paper very fast, a line of X's, they look like Y's very often, at least for me. So it could be just unfinished X. I don't know. But yes, maybe I am getting wrong here. Um, About the mammoth figurine specifically, these marks look like located on an interesting site places. One thing, yes, when you need to hunt a mammoth, this is not something what you would do every week or even every month or even maybe every year. There were other animals which were very edible, um, and smaller ones. The mammoth, there is a problem. You need to waste a lot of energy and time in order to catch it, and you cannot even eat it whole, most likely. And it is dangerous. So I don't think they did it very often. But when they did it, they had to know what exactly they are doing. And 3D figurine was showing exact spots, vulnerable spots, how to easy hunt it was. Prob- I would think they could use something like that because for a lot of these people, probably they did that for the first time in their life, even. And even if you do it once in a year or 2 or 3 years, you can forget something. When you don't do something every single day, you can just really forget about some stuff. Another thing, it could also be when I was, let's say, it was kind of like college where I was learning this for to be a chef. We had these kind of like diagrams, maps of different animals, showing which part of the animal is which cut of meat, where it is located, what it's called, how it's best to be prepared, basically what is it is. And when you catch this huge animal, you have to understand that probably you will not be able to eat it whole, and you have to cut out the best parts. Especially, it's not just because you are not maybe you could be able to eat in 3 years, but the problem is also preservation. And especially if most likely it would be stupid to hunt it somewhere in summer or spring because it will rot very quickly. So you could do some kind of preservation, but that would be more logical to do it somewhere around autumn, winter. And you still have to know what are the best parts to cut out, which you should use first, and then maybe what is left you could maybe use it if you are able to do that, but you have to concentrate on the best parts first. Also, not just because it will rot or become too hard to cut because it will stiffens this meat. So, but also why you had to do it very fast is because of other predators, and maybe worse than just a pack of wolves. So you have to really think about that you are attracting other animals. About it being like resemblance of these forms. How do you pronounce them? Uh, yeah, first of all, if some because something is similar to something else, that doesn't mean same outcome. A lot of things can be similar, but because something happened once, that doesn't necessarily mean it happens all the time. Sometimes if something happened once, there is very high probability that it will happen a second time. But the problem here is that this is a different, absolutely different people, and absolutely different reason, necessity for these cune forms. They evolved from something. They were used these signs for specific reasons, and not for the same reasons which hunter gatherers made them. These are completely different places, not just geographically, but also in time. They arrived there. So these bones with these marks were found there, but it's not like this was invented there. These people already arrived there with this knowledge. And at that point, even it could be existing already for another 10,000 years, or who knows. So why do we stop at this 40,000 years ago? Because this, even Neanderthals did something like that. So this could be something what our common ancestors even did uh, in Africa before, a long time before that. And also, we always have to remember that what we found is one thing, but we don't know what we didn't found. And we didn't found a lot of things, actually, much more than maybe we can imagine. And also, I don't see. Okay, that's maybe not on a less serious note. Why don't we think that these were just made for being like without any meaning? Sometimes we draw some things on the papers without absolutely any purpose and any meaning, and that is very human thing. We think that these people back then were so much different than us now. Yes, we are different in many ways, of course, but they are still humans. Not actually so much different as we might think. And some, yes, in some things we definitely are different, but there are a lot of things which we have as humans, these characteristics which are really ancient. Mm, So sometimes people do something not because they have to, but it's because they're bored. Especially hunter gatherers, they had actually long periods of times, probably when they had nothing to do actually, and boredom for a human is really this is why one of the reasons why I am making these videos, because find it fun. Are they useful for someone? I don't know, but they I know for sure this is useful for me personally because I learn something and I have fun. Yes, and maybe that's it. Yeah, thanks for watching and goodbye.